All right, here's quiz solutions for the first quiz for Math 243. We're given this little scenario here. We want to determine which team SOU students think will win the playoff game this weekend between the Niners and the Saints. 100 SOU students are chosen. 60% think the Saints will win. 40% think my Niners will win. So we conclude that SOU students think that the Saints are more likely to win this game. So what is the research objective? The research objective is the question that we're trying to answer with this study. So our research objective would be, I want to blank, determine which team current SOU students think will win the NFC divisional playoff game between the 49ers and the Saints. You probably don't have to write that whole thing. I don't know. Okay, it's going to take a while. I'm going to pause this. All right, now I got that written there. Research objective is to determine which team current SOU students think will win the NFC divisional playoff game between the 49ers and the Saints. So what is the sample? The sample are the people whose data we actually used, the people we actually asked. In this case, it's these 100 randomly selected students. Okay, so the sample is the 100 randomly selected SOU students. You can put randomly selected in there if you really want to. The population. The population is kind of what this sample is meant to represent, who our research objective is asking about. In this case, it's all SOU students, right? We want to know what all SOU students think. All right, moving on. Let's see the descriptive statistic. This is, you get the data and you want to summarize it, put it in a form that's easier to understand. So that's here where we know that 60% of these students believe the Saints will win, 40% think the 49ers will win. Right, you can imagine the data itself was first person Saints, second person Saints, third person Niners, fourth person Saints, fifth person Niners, etc. But that's not as helpful. This descriptive statistic is these actual percentages here. All right, and then finally our conclusion. Let's see, the conclusion, I think it even says here, I conclude that, kind of nice keywords, SOU students think that the Saints are more likely to win the game. So the conclusion is that SOU students think that the Saints are more likely to win the game. All right, so that's all from number one. Your answers might be slightly different than this, but it should be more or less this idea. Number two is the qualitative, quantitative question that I promised. We just have to determine whether each of these variables are quantitative or qualitative. Quantitative, you're thinking numbers that have a meaningful average. Qualitative, you're thinking more qualities, adjectives, categories that things fit in. So gender is definitely qualitative. Maybe I'll shortcut and just write qual. Height, I would say that one's quantitative. I guess you could argue that if by height I meant short, medium, or tall, right, then it's qualitative. But I think when most people see this, they're thinking 6'1", 6'2", 6'3". They're thinking these numbers that have a meaningful average. That would be quantitative. Nationality, I think that one's definitely qualitative. No numbers going on there. Zip code, a little bit tricky. It is numbers, but it doesn't really have a meaningful average, right? If one zip code is 94552 and the other one is 93017, the average of those two doesn't really have any meaning. It doesn't make sense. So therefore, it is qualitative. It's meant to be the hard one, but we went over that in class. And lastly, age. I think that one's got to be quantitative also. Again, you could argue, oh, by age I meant children, adolescents, middle age, and old folk or something. That's like, all right, then it's qualitative. But generally speaking, I think when most people see this, they're thinking the number of years you've been alive, in which case it's quantitative. And there's the end of the quiz.